the promise of agents was for us to be able to delegate meaningful work, right? We wanted them to be able to do something hard, not just create a list, but to do the work. And so I'm going to go over an example of, I want the agent to be able to plan and book me a trip. A travel agent, right? But a digital one. So I want 2 weeks in Japan. I want to fly business class. I want to be there during cherry blossom time. I want to ride around on a bullet train. I want to book me an omakase counter at some of the best sushi I can get. I want to be able to watch some masters really work at their craft, like to eat some yakitori. And I like it to come up with stuff that I hadn't even thought of yet for my trip. And budget, 20K, optimized for experience. And so why do I want an agent? Well, because I don't have time to research all of these things, optimize for the value, right? I want to get good value for my dollar. I want to optimize my schedule. And I don't speak Japanese, right? All the content's going to be Japanese. It's going to be super tough for me to figure all of this stuff out, right? I want an amazing trip. I'm going to spend a couple of weeks, spend a bunch of money. I want it to work well. So this is the work I want to hand off to the agent, right? So doing the research, pretty easy for agents to go crawl the web, translate stuff, figure things out. Create the optimized itinerary, sounds easy, but my agent right away figured out that there was a really hard part of that. Flights and hotels are easy, but eating at a sushi counter at a high-end sushi place, if anyone's traveled and tried to book a place in Tokyo, is super hard. And so the best places, like, the reservations come up once a month and then they're gone right away, right? If you can even get in, right? A knowing person here in the audience. And so that one table drives the whole trip around when can you get that table, and then everything else has to fall around that schedule, which is great for an agent to figure all these things out. And so everything else is tentative until that table is booked. But the agent can't just book it, right? It has to wait until that table comes available. Good thing for a robot to do, sit there and wait, right? I don't want to sit there and wait. And when a seat opens up, it has to take it now, right away. And so when that release comes out, it's Tokyo time. And I'm asleep in Lisbon. I live in Lisbon now, right? It's the middle of the night when this thing rolls out. And so it has to take it, and it's going to commit me to 44,000 yen charge, non-refundable, to get on that seat, right? It has to make that decision right now. And the table fixes a date, and now once that date's in there, I want to get all the rest of the stuff all booked, right? I don't want to have a scattered schedule, right? I want a great schedule. And so, filling in a form is easy. Automation has been doing this for years. But we knew it, and we've automated those things when we knew exactly what we wanted to do, right? We knew each step of that automation, right? It was static code. It was running to a plan around us knowing what was going on. But I don't know which seat's going to open on which restaurant. And I don't know what the venue is going to require when I go to register, right? Because it came up, and then you get to the form, and you got to put all the right stuff into the form. You have to know what it's going to do, what table you're going to pick, right? It's very dynamic. This isn't something I know ahead of time as to how I can go and code what I'm going to fill in for that form. The agent has to decide this live right now to get me that seat at the table, right? This isn't automation, it's an agent. But now it's committing my money without me. Oops, right? This isn't just a form, right? This is a contract. I'm out that money. This is a done deal that I want done right away. And so that form isn't just a form, it's an offer around what it is. And when I fill that in and hit buy, right, that's acceptance. This is a contract. So it isn't just filling the form, it's accepting a contract for me. When that seat opens up, the restaurant isn't asking for the form, they're asking, can the customer be held accountable for this, right? This is a contract. So today the agent's answer is it just pretends to be me and clicks that button, right? The restaurant doesn't know the difference. They saw the filled in form. They don't know whether an agent did that or whether I did that. And so, that I authorize this is really something the agent did, and the agent can be fooled, right? It can make stuff up. Somebody might have given it the wrong data. But the real discomfort in all of this is ours, right? Are we going to let the agent just do whatever it wants? Not me. And I can't be there to go and approve the booking myself. This isn't going to work, right? That defeats the whole point of having the agent do this. So neither of these works. So a fixed rule can't decide, is this commitment justified? This is really judgment in context, right? This isn't deterministic rules or laws, right? This is the type of things we want agents to be able to do, look at context and make a decision, right? So like in a number of the previous talks, people talk about deterministic guardrails around an agent. If you're going to do that, you've just handcuffed the agent. They can't do the things we want them to do, which are contextual decisions. And so it's not, but we don't want the agent's own judgment around, should I do this, right? It's trying to figure it out, right? It's self-dealing. Someone independent must make it for me, something that holds my intent and judges each commitment for me. And I call that a governor, like it's a separate entity. It's independent from the agent. It answers to me, not to the agent. It holds my mission, the full context of what's trying to do, right? It isn't just this one transaction. It knows the agent's booking this table, but it's booking this table in the context of everything else in the trip, right? It's not just this list of rules. You know, that trip is contextual, it moves around, it's dynamic. So at 1 a.m. when that seat opens up, the agent proposes the commitment. You know, this restaurant, this time, this amount of money, is it all within the mission? And the governor judges that. Does that make sense? And it authorizes it while I'm still asleep. And none of this works unless the agent is really acting on behalf of me. The agent has its own identity, acting for me, not pretending to be me. And so there's a separation of duties. The agent's proposing, the governor disposes. It's independent, which is the whole point. The restaurant doesn't need to know whether it's a human or an agent, only that it's my agent and it's authorized. It's not impersonation, it's verifiable delegation, and that's AAuth, the protocol I've been working on with a number of people for the last while. There's an identity for the agent, every decision. There's a decision for every commitment. Here's a bit of the flow. There's an agent, goes, talks to resource, gets a token for what the resource needs, comes back to the person server that's got the governor saying, here's the thing that I want to do. And the governor says, yep, that's okay. And it goes through and is approved. So in short, a booking is a contract. The agent accepts it for me. It can't authorize itself. The governor decides each commitment in context. The agent has its own identity, verifiable delegation, not impersonation. So to dive in a little bit more into the meat, agent identity, there's what are the different AAuth tokens? There's an agent token payload that has the key for the agent inside of that. It's signed by what we call the agent provider. There's the resource token, which is the resource signing the context of everything. Included in that is the agent that called it to bind it back to that agent. And in this case, the mission that we're booking this trip to Japan. And then there's the auth token, which unlike an ID token or an access token, can contain both identity and authorization inside of it. And a key thing in AAuth is, you know, we have a number of modern mechanisms available now that we didn't have when we did OAuth. And so how an agent proves its identity is it does HTTP message signing. So the request is signed, so you get message integrity. You have proof of possession that it has the key that's in the token, and the token is in the header, and that token is what has all the authorization in it. So you've tightly bound everything, but you can ride on top of existing HTTP mechanism. You're not trying to do something in another area. You're binding it right to the protocol. So the status now, be working at IETF 126 in Vienna this summer. A number of people, I've written the TypeScript libraries, other people wrote Python, somebody else wrote .NET. There's a bunch of people that have a number of deployments out in production. At Hellō, we're running the person server component, which is one of the harder pieces, but we already had most of that working. If you're local in SF, we have AAuth night next week, July 1. That's a link to the Luma if anybody's interested in going to that. We've got a number of people doing demos of their AAuth deployments. You can learn more about it at aauth.dev, and if you're interested in learning more, there's my LinkedIn, you can follow me on LinkedIn. And it was only 10 minutes, we got lots of time for Q&A, if there's any. Yes? Which part was fast? Certainly. So the agent token is, so in AAuth, there's an agent provider that manages agent, which gives you a policy enforcement point you don't normally have in these deployments. And so the agent provider can decide, is this agent still running in an environment that's trusted? You know, what is its posture? All those types of things. And so, which maps well to a lot of the confidential computing, like where is this agent running? And that the agent provider does that. So that maps into Spiffy, a whole bunch of other environments that have been doing that around. How do you decide whether something gets a key to do anything and what's it able to do? So other attestations about the agent can be in the agent token besides just the bare minimum. So in here, it's the issuer, which would be a resolvable, the agent provider is resolvable address. The DWK stands for .well known as a simplifying mechanism to be able to resolve to get the JWK keys. And so you know that that's a .well known that you go, you've got the issuer .well known AAuth agent.json. And then inside of that's going to be the JWK for you to get the key that was used to sign this token. I have to put my glasses on because I can't read what I've got here. And then the sub is the identifier for the agent, which is local at, well, I got a mistake. The host part here, dickhardt.github.io, should be the same as the issuer. So that's a mistake in the demo. The person server would be who the agent's person server. So each agent is associated with a person, and as in a legal person. So it's either a organization or a human. They're either one are represented, because of course you don't have agents that just work all by themselves. They're either for a human or a organization. This is the agent's key, is the CNF claim, and then when it was issued and when it expires. Questions on that? Yes? No? Was that even helpful? Sort of? Yeah. Well, I made a so tons of details at aauth.dev. We have little automated flows that go through all of that. There's also I think, kind of a cool thing, a walkthrough that you can do. So there's a prompt that you can put into your favorite CLI that will pull down and run our bootstrap on your own machine and publish keys on your own JWKS. So you can, one of the architectural features of AAuth is that you can run your own agent provider on your own machine that's using your own URL. So dickhardt.github.io has that running. And so I can run my own agents on my own machine and prove that it's my agents. And one of the things that's fallen out of AAuth is, now that we're giving clients identity, is we actually have a path of getting rid of API keys. Because API key is really, oh, this is who I am. If I got the API key, I'm allowed to call the API. But you can also just have a list of agent identifiers, and it's like, that's who allowed to call. And you've moved away from shared secrets to proof of possession. Yes? I would talk a little bit more about So I'm really wishing that I'd put a slide with a little component, little picture of everything into it. Yeah. What's that? Is that just magic? No. So in the architecture, the agent comes back always to the person server. And then on the other side of the person server is something making the decision about what was provided. And because we're in an agentic time, there's a number of features, primitives in the protocol that enable you to do things that you want to do in an agentic world. So one of them is currently in AAuth, right? You just get shown the scopes and whatever the authorization server said that you're allowed to do. That's it. In AAuth, the agent can provide a justification around why is it asking for this permission as part of the context. That's just marked down. From the resource says, hey, this agent wants to do something, and so this would be in the resource token. And in here, you see there's an R3 URI and an R3 SHA that points to a document that the resource created about this request. And so in that is the types of operations, but also information around irreversible operations and things like that, that the resource might be concerned. So essentially the resource understands itself and what might happen and whether something's a good thing or a bad thing. That can all be in that document. And the resource can say, oh, you can call the drop table function, but it's conditional. And when you call that, I'm going to create a new R3 document that gives all the context on dropping that table. And so if that table was something that was just created, an hour ago, and it's a demo table, it's only got 5 records, right? I'll provide all that context in the document. And if it's production that's been around for 4 years and it's got 5 million records, right? That'll be part of the context as well. And so you've got the context from the resource, you got the context from the agent, and all of that comes together potentially within the context of a whole mission around how does this fit into the broader set of operations it's able to do? And the governor is an agent that takes all of that context to make a decision as to whether it should let it happen or not. But sometimes you don't know whether it should happen or not, and you want to know a little more. And so the protocol enables the person or governor to go and ask for clarification from the agent as to more about this, for the agent to come back and you can have a dialogue then around this as opposed to just saying yes or no. And so in the protocol, the governor is making a decision around context as opposed to your traditional deterministic rules of policy enforcement. So you're enforcing policy at the resource, of course, but it's just enforcing it using its existing deterministic rules, and other parts are doing deterministic rules, and then you've got all that context in the governor. That was a long answer, but I think that when you have it is an agent, it's not deterministic in how it's going to make it, but if we really want to enable agents to do the things we want them to do, we need to be able to go and have a mechanism for policy decisions being made based on context, as opposed to, RBAC or your favorite authorization language. Yeah. Yeah, but I think, so I'm glad you brought up the point on people go and say, oh, you can't make purchases for $500 without a prior approval, right? And we think that's good, but that's just because context is hard, right? Really, you want people to make purchases, if it's $550 and it makes a lot of sense, somebody should be able to just do it, right? And they shouldn't oh, I can spend up to 500, so I can go nuts up to 490, right? But it might not make sense, right? And so really what we want to do is we don't want, I think in the future, rather than hard spending policies of $500 or $10,000. We're going to sort of have it more that it's based off of judgment and context, but it's because we're going to have agents that'll evaluate that. Right? Like if any of you have read the books or studied Netflix, right? Anybody can write a large purchase order, it just needs to be within what's best for the company, right? They gave them rules and the person making that decision is doing it in context as opposed to you having artificial boundaries that don't really make sense. They were just easier to do. And so when we have something that can make contextual decisions easily that we can trust, I think we can drive a lot of efficiencies and get rid of a lot of artificial rules that people skew or game or that blocks them. Cultures change, man. Yeah. Yes?
I'm just curious, like, trust in the right context of the agent.
Oh, you got to treat the agent adversarial, of course. Yeah.
But if the agent lies and gives like a bad context, like make a judgment on that.
Same answer, right? Yes. You treat the agent adversarial, right? So the governor is playing judge, right? There's the agent arguing its case, and the resource presenting its context as well, right? Because somebody might have, not that it's necessarily a bad agent, but it might have been prompt ejected or something like that. So that's part of your full security model. Just like that's why you have a governor, right? Because if you didn't have the governor, the agent would just go, that's why we have the separation of concerns. So something else is judging whether the agent should do that or not. If we could trust the agent to always do the right thing, we wouldn't need this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, traditional security separation of concerns, separation of duties. Yeah. Okay, thank you.